Hello everybody, welcome back to the Young Fan Podcast. Today we're going to be reacting to my League One predictions that I did at the start of the season. Of course, we're at the halfway point of this League One campaign, and some of these predictions are already looking horrific. I remember doing it at the start of the season. I said there's literally no positive outcome that can come from this, and I was once again correct on that. Some of these are absolutely outrageous. However, some are okay. But a lot of them are absolutely covered in horrific footballing prediction. Either way, though, we're going to be delving deep into every single one of those predictions. But most importantly today, I want to be reviewing where every team is and where every League One club is at the halfway point of the season. Some of these teams, of course, are exceeding expectation. Some of the teams are falling below their expectation that they started and aimed for at the start of the season. Of course, you know your club better than I do, and you'll know your club's expectation and probably ambition when the season kicked off. But I want to hear from you in the comments down below. Are you happy with your League One club's season so far? Now we hit the halfway point of the campaign. Are you disappointed? And what does your club need to do in January? Because that's also something I want to pick up on now as well. What do they need to do now this winter window is open? Because we hit now a very, and we sort of moved past now from a very, very festive, congested part of the season, which is traditionally what it's meant to be. A lot of teams had games postponed, but a lot of teams have played quite a few games in a short amount of time. The postponements have slowed that schedule down slightly, but we're now heading into a really quite congested part of the season because of those postponed games. We're talking Saturday, Tuesday now for probably January, February, and probably now moving into March and April. Like I said, because of those games being postponed. So January is a really significant month when it comes to not just on the field, but also off the field. What does your club need to do to sort out or continue on the good vein of form that they currently find themselves in? Let me know that as well in the comments down below. I'm going to be giving my thoughts on that as well as also reacting to some of these horrific predictions that I set at the start of the season. Like I said, some are okay, but too many of them are covered in absolute disaster. Let's get straight into it. We're going to start at the bottom of my prediction. So that was Morecambe, who I predicted to come 24th. You can see straight away that prediction wasn't right because Morecambe aren't 24th. Morecambe find themselves in 21st. I predicted them, like I said, to come bottom in 24th. It's not an awful prediction. I've made worse predictions. I said that they would be in a very serious relegation battle in the end, finishing bottom. They find themselves in a relegation battle at the halfway point of the season, but not as bad as 24th. They're not bottom of the league like I predicted, but they are in the lower regions of the table. But it's not all doom and gloom for Morecambe, really. They've got a really good striker in Cole Stockton who's been absolutely phenomenal for them this season. He's scored some really important goals. I think without them, they really would be in a difficult place. They started the season fairly well. They got a really good result against Ipswich, which was a draw in that game. And like I said, they've got players in that side, especially going forward, that can really cause problems. And I think that's where they find themselves in the positive side of things. That's probably why they're not bottom of the league. However, they have got the leakiest defence in the league, so defensively they really do find themselves in a spot of bother, and that's probably in January where they're looking to resolve things. Can they bring in some defenders? Can they bring in some defensive reinforcements in January? If they can do that, I think relegation can be avoided because, like I said, they've got that attacking power and they've shown that this season to really cause problems. It's that defence. It's the defence that worries me. But they're not bottom like I predicted. They are in a bit of a relegation battle, but they're not bottom. They do need to bring some players in January though to get themselves out of the battle they currently find themselves in. Next then we're going to go to Cheltenham, who I predicted to come 23rd. I've got this one very wrong. They currently find themselves in 14th. It's been a really good season for Cheltenham. Like I said, a team that had been promoted into League One from League Two last season. I don't think I was alone in saying that at the time that Cheltenham were going to be in a relegation battle. But like I said, I've got it very wrong because Cheltenham this season look really well organised. And I think they are punching above their weight. They really are showing their quality. And I don't mean that in a patronising way towards Cheltenham by any means. I think they've done really well. They look well organised. They look well drilled. They look well coached. And if you're going to do that and if you can get all of those ingredients in a football match on a consistent basis, you're going to find themselves, and you're going to find yourself, like should I say, really competing in the league. Now, we're not talking about a side that are competing for top six, but we're certainly not talking about a side now that really should be worried about relegation. We watched them on Saturday. We drew against them. Oxford United drew 1-1 against them, and they were very well organised, very well drilled. I do think, though, if you went 1-0 up against them, I think things can change. We went 1-0 down against them, and because they were so well organised before they scored, if they can score, you're going to find themselves in a real worry, because, like I said, they play a very well drilled. They look well coached, and that's the most important thing. So organised in how they set up defensively, and also they've got Alfie May, who's done a fantastic job going forward as well. He's been brilliant this season, and I think they are defying expectations this season. I think we would all agree on that, and fair play to Cheltenham. I predicted them 23rd. They're currently 14th, and they're looking like a really good side. Next up, we've got Cambridge. A very impressive season for Cambridge, who were promoted, of course, in the summer from League Two. And I made a few predictions, and I don't think I'm the only one that said that I think Cambridge would be in a bit of a relegation battle. Not bottom, not 23rd, but 22nd. Now, they currently find themselves in 17th. And losing their 34-man striker, Paul Mullen, to Wrexham in the summer, he's got a lot of goals. 34 goals in a season is absolutely phenomenal. And to lose him, I think, was a real worry. And it was going to be how they could replace those goals and how they could still be a threat going forward in the attacking areas of the pitch. And I think the answer really has been Ironside. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. We did a ranking every striker from your League One club in a tier list, and we did that, and you've enjoyed it, and you haven't checked that out, please do. It'll be in the link in the description down below. It's the latest episode of the podcast. It's a recorded one, and we did a tier list on that, looking at the statistics behind it, and Ironside, I think, has been so underrated this season. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, in terms of replacing Paul Mullen, I think he's done a fantastic job at doing that. Mark Boner as well is building a real reputation to such a young manager, but also a well coached manager as well, similar to Cheltenham. Cambridge looks so well coached, and he's really building a reputation for a promising young manager. They're now building Cambridge, hopefully in January, into becoming a mid-table side. Like I said, they do need to bring some recruits in. If they do that, we're going to be looking at probably a mid-table Cambridge side, which is really good. So really impressed with Cambridge this season so far. Next, I predicted AFC Wimbledon to finish 21st. In fact, AFC Wimbledon aren't 21st, they're 18th. So it's not awful. It's not a horrific prediction. So far, I've got none horrific other than really Cheltenham. I did predict to be in the relegation zone, and they're 14th. But other than that, I've done okay so far. And AFC Wimbledon, I didn't do awful. And the thing with Wimbledon this season so far is there's slight inconsistencies. There's been some real inconsistencies in this Wimbledon side, and that's, I think, where they're letting them down in areas. Some poor runs and some impressive ones. And when you find yourself in a poor run of form and then an impressive run of form, and it's sort of alternating between the two, you're going to find yourself in the lower regions, not the relegation zone, but between sort of 12th and sort of 19th, if you like, because you need to get more runs. To get more good runs than bad ones, you're going to get in that top half of the league. And Wimbledon find themselves in a position at the moment where they need to sort of iron out those inconsistencies. If they can iron out those inconsistencies, we're going to see a much better Wimbledon side in the second half of the season. Like I said, with some January signings, that can be, not resolved, but that can certainly be improved. And that's something that Wimbledon are going to look at. What sort of players can they look at and get in January? They've done better than I expected, and they've played a generally good brand of football. Mark Robinson at Wimbledon this season has tried to implement this sort of real good DNA attacking culture about the football club. They've brought in a coach, I believe, just gone on loan he's on loan from Chelsea. He's gone back to Chelsea, and he's implemented this really exciting top level style of play on them, and Mark Robinson's been learning off him, and he's obviously learnt off Wimbledon. They look like a really good side in terms of playing football. Like I said, those bad runs and those inconsistencies need to be ironed out. They're struggling at home this season, but 30 goals across the squad as well in 20 goals in 20 games across the squad really shows that they're sort of distributing those goals so well. There's a really good DNA and culture about them building at Wimbledon. Like I said, January's a significant transfer window for them more than anything. So let's get some players in if you're a Wimbledon football club and see where they are at the end of the season, because they've done a really decent job at the moment, that they can push up higher if they bring in some good players, and the right players, of course. Next, it's the worst one. It's a horrific one. I predicted Plymouth to come in 20th position. What on earth was I doing? I owe Plymouth a huge apology, but not just Plymouth Football Club. I think I owe the whole area of the UK an absolute sincere apology. 20th in the league. They currently find themselves in 6th place. They're in the playoffs. For a large part of the season, they were top of the league. I predicted them to be in a relegation battle this season. What on earth was I doing? My prediction was nothing short of absolutely embarrassing. Like I said, I completely apologise. And they've proved me very, very wrong. Ryan Lowe, of course, he's just gone to Preston, but was at Plymouth for the most part of this season so far. Implemented a really, really, and coached such a good Plymouth side, and there's no reason why they couldn't be top of the league under that management. They looked like a force, they looked like a winning machine. They were absolutely brilliant. They were high flying at the top of the league, and like I said, he created this machine that was just pumping out wins, and if you can do that, you're going to be a successful team, and they were for the most part of this season under Ryan Lowe, top of the league. Now they have had a slight fall off into now 6th place under sort of Stephen Schumacher's now come in, who's the assistant under Ryan Lowe. He's now been appointed as that manager. And there has been a slight drop-off, and you can see why when you lose a manager that was so important and so significant in that. And I think Stephen Schumacher, there's no reason why he can't also implement similar to Ryan Lowe, because they've worked under each other for a long time and with each other, Bury and now at Plymouth. Not anymore. He's now gone to Preston, of course, Ryan Lowe. But they've worked with each other a long time. You can see that style of play will probably be looked at to continue. But I've been so impressed with them. He's gone to Preston, and that's a big loss for Plymouth fans, and they will be a little bit disappointed by that. Of course they will. I'd say very disappointed. But like I said, he's left them in a good place. He's left them still in a real chance of promotion. Can Stephen Schumacher, with work in the window as well to reinforce and add quality to that side, can be the push that they need to go on and get promoted? I think it would be an incredible story. My prediction was horrific. I still think playoffs the target for Plymouth. Like I said, my prediction was awful. I apologise, but they've proved me very, very wrong, and they're doing fantastically well. Congratulations to Plymouth, and good luck for them for the rest of the season. Next, then, we've got Shrewsbury. Then I predicted them to come 19th. They're currently in 15th. So, like I said, it's not a great prediction. It's not a spot on one by any stretch, but it's okay. It's the same sort. It's around the same region of the league. They've done best than I expected, and they should really now be clear of relegation struggle. They should now hopefully be, I guess, climbing away from that struggle with the right signings in January. But at the moment, without that winter window, they're already starting to do that, which is a really, really positive place to be. I think what's important to say is you don't want to be relying on a January transfer window. You don't want to be relying on a winter window. You want to be trying to get yourself in a position before that window to add to the quality and add on what is already hopefully a positive and upward trajectory. If you can do that, then you're going to be in a good, a really, really good place. Now, injuries have been a factor for some sort of dodgy spells this season, and of course, injuries can't be helped in football, and that's sort of where those bad runs, of course, stem from. Some really, really important players hit with injuries. But if you can see, and there's a few areas, like I said, their away form needs to be looked at. If they could sort out that away form, that needs improving. They currently have not won a game away from home in the league. That needs to be sorted out, because you think about it, if you're 15th with no away wins this season, you start bringing in some away wins, and you start sort of just adding them into what is already quite a decent points tally. You're going to be really, really going up that table, quite quickly and quite significantly. So I think they can do that. They've had some great performances this season, and for the reason for that, that's why I don't see relegation being an issue. I don't think that'd be a problem for them. I can see a really quite consolidated season for Shrewsbury between 12th and 17th, just in that region, just below mid-table, maybe just on mid-table. That's where I can see them be if they get January right and continue, getting themselves into that position. Sort that away form out. I think we could see a really decent Shrewsbury side for the second half of the season. Next, I predicted Gillingham, and I predicted them to come 18th. They've, at the moment, found themselves in a really quite dangerous position in the League One table at 22nd. And it's not been a great season for Gillingham after quite higher aspirations, I think, at the start of the season. I think it was hoping to be one of those where they could sort of consolidate in what was a good finish last year for them, sort of in that mid-table area of the table. I think that's where they hope they could be this season. It's not to be. They're really quite struggling. Like I said, they're 22nd in the league, and they're not looking like they're going to be anywhere near those aspirations. And now I think all focus has to be on relegation. I think it's quite a possibility now. I think it is. I think a lot of fans are also finding themselves in a place now where it's quite a scary possibility. It's quite a scary time for Gillingham fans, because they really do see a side now who are struggling and are in the relegation battle. Then, like I said, they have had a long injury list. And they need to bring some players in desperately in January. Can they get those players in? Which players are going to want to come to Gillingham, because they play a very, very specific style of play, should I say, under Steve Evans. So that needs to be sorted out really, really quickly in January. The right recruits need to be highlighted. If they can bring those in, they can claw their way out of a relegation battle. That would be brilliant for them. But at the moment, they really, really are struggling. Next, 17th, I predicted Accrington Stanley, and they're doing very, very well once again. Last season, they did a fantastic job. They're actually 10th at the moment in the league, and they're doing much better than I expected. And honestly, fair play to them. They're once again a bit of a banana skin for some of the top sides. And I say top sides in inverted commas there because I think there's going to be a point where Accrington Stanley, who, like I said, I think that, in terms of size of fan base, they're certainly not up there with the likes of Sheffield Wednesday, Ipswich Town, Wigan, Portsmouth, Bolton, as just examples. But they really, like I said, they're becoming a banana skin for those sides. And Accrington, under John Goldman, who's been there such a long time, they're really doing a fantastic job. And again, this season, they're causing problems for sides that are hoping to be in the top six. And before you know it, I think Accrington Stanley will be pushing into that top six. They could do it this season, I'm not entirely sure. But honestly, they really, really are causing problems. They beat Rotherham quite recently, 1-0. I believe that was on Boxing Day. And it's those sort of results for a team like Rotherham who want to go and win the league, who want to go up. Accrington just get in their way and play a really, really good style of play. And there's really very rarely a dull moment in an Accrington game. And that really quite excites me. Now, they are conceding quite a few goals. We pumped 5 past them earlier in the season. But then there's games where they look really good defensively and cause problems against some of the top sides. They've conceded, like I said, I'd say too many goals at the moment to be looking at a top 6. If they can sort of sort out that defence on a more consistent basis and continue beating some of the sides above them and maybe get some better results, maybe lower down, because that's sometimes where they can slip up, I think we're going to be talking about a really, really good Accrington side. January is going to be important, keeping hold of their main man, their star man so far this season, Colby Bishop. It's not going to be easy, but he's been phenomenal this season, bringing a few new faces as well. I think this could be a really extra special season to remember for Accrington Stanley. Next, we have got Doncaster Rovers. It's been a struggle for Doncaster. It's been a real struggle. The aim for Doncaster this season, before going into this season under Richie Wellens, who's already been sacked, was a bit of a consolidation season. Can we bring some players in the summer just to consolidate where we finished last season? Of course, they went with a caretaker manager after Darren Moore left for Sheffield Wednesday last year. We saw a massive drop-off. They didn't bring a manager in until the summer. Richie Wellens came in. He didn't do a great job. He got them in a really, really worrying position. He was, of course, sacked. The aim for a consolidation season looked in the mud very, very early on in the season. And now all focus has to be on survival. Now, it took a while to appoint a manager. And after all of the meetings we heard about bringing a new manager in the interviews, they went with a caretaker manager that they were sat with for probably about 2 months. So they've gone, in the end, with the same manager that's been in the dugout, like I said, for quite a long period of time, McSheffrey. He's now the new boss. And now I think they can focus on bringing players in January. Then they've got their manager in. Now let's see where they are. Now let's see who they can bring in January, because they need to bring some faces in. That target now has to be getting out of the relegation zone. Survival. They're currently 24th in the league. Bottom of the league. They need to sort themselves out really, really quickly. I predicted them 16th. I thought they could get that consolidation season. They're not. They're rock bottom. They need to sort themselves out by bringing some players in January. Next, then, we've got Crewe, who are also in a bit of a struggle position at the moment. They're 23rd. I predicted them to finish 15th, 1 place above Doncaster. They are 1 place above Doncaster. I got that bit right, but 24th and 23rd. So it's been a very, very bad start to the season for them. Very, very bad first half of the season. They currently find themselves, of course, in 23rd. I thought they'd be coming 15th. In my defence, that prediction was done before they lost their huge player last season, Charlie Kirk, to Charlton. And he had 14 goal contributions last season. And his creativity and his goal scoring, I think, has been a massive, massive loss. They've struggled to replace that. They lost their fullbacks as well in the summer, who are so important in the way they play. They lost them as well, so that's not great either. They've had a slight improvement, but they still are in 23rd. So they need to get themselves out of that issue. They need to get themselves out of that hole they find themselves in. The only hope they've got at the moment is getting some players in January. I know it's what we said to a lot of these clubs, but it's the truth. If you're struggling, you've got to bring some new faces in the door. And relegation at the moment is very, very much on the cards. Similar to Doncaster, that's a real worry for them. They need to get themselves out of a very, very difficult hole they find themselves in at the halfway point of this season. Next, we've got Fleetwood, who I predicted to come 14th, and at the moment are 19th. Relegation possibilities are looking now fairly low, which is a really quite good place to be at a point this season. It did look like it was a real possibility. They sacked Simon Grayson. They brought in Craney, who of course was their under-18s manager, and they've got quite a young side at Fleetwood, a side that have worked a lot on their youth and worked a lot of their youth level players, and now trying to bring them into the first team, and that development of young players now we're seeing come through. And who better to develop them and implement them into the first team than their under-18s coach that worked with them at youth level. He's now becoming their head coach till the end of the season, at least for Fleetwood. And we've seen a real change in fortunes. They looked horrific at points this season. They now are looking a little bit better. I did expect a little better, and that's probably because the start of the season they were so poor. And if they'd done better at the start, then they probably would have been around 14th. But there is a slight improvement, and that's all that matters for Fleetwood at the moment. That relegation now is slowly, or relegation fear is slowly fizzling away, which is important. Some really exciting prospects in that side as well. They need to keep hold of in January and hopefully this summer if they are to continue on this development. But yeah, I don't think they need to worry about relegation now. I've liked now recently watching Fleetwood. They have looked better. But yeah, they find themselves in 19th. They can claw up. I thought they were going to be 14th. But like I said, they've had a bit of an up and down season off the pitch as well as on it. Next season, then we've got MK Dons. Not next season. That's we've got the halfway point of the season. MK Dons, I thought were going to be finishing in 13th. They've exceeded expectations and they've done brilliantly so far. They sit just outside the playoffs and really look like they could finish in that top 6. For me, they've got to keep hold of their important players. They've got to keep hold of their standout players this season. So far, again, a lot of teams are going to be knocking on the door. A lot of championship teams are going to be knocking on the door, knocking on that MK Dons door, and they need to say no. They need to slam that door shut, and what they need to do is bring some more players into the club. It's not easy because they're going to have bids, they're going to have a lot of interest. Scott Twine, for example, Harry Darling, another example. These players are going to really be attracting attention from some top sides. They need to keep hold of that. And if MK Dons have serious aspirations for coming in that top 6, that's what they need to go and do. They need to keep hold of those players more than anything. I think this January window could be more important about retaining players, whereas, instead of recruiting players. I think the retention of players, whereas towards the recruitment of players, is going to be much more squared towards that retaining side because they need to keep hold of some key players who have been fantastic this season. If they can get that sorted and if they can keep hold of them, I think we could talk about top 6. I think that top 6 certainly could be more than a possibility if they continue that. They've done better than I thought. Fair play to them. I don't think anyone thought Scott Twine was going to be as good as he was. But yeah, keep hold of those players. I think we could see a really exciting MK Dons side continue into that second half of the season. Next then we've got Burton Albion, who I thought would come 12th. They're currently in 12th. There we go. Spot on with my prediction. The only one I must add, I got to be honest, that's the only one that I got spot on. But there we go. It's important that I got at least one right. They started off remarkably. They dropped off slightly. They started off, high flying. They have had a bit of a drop off recently, but it's what do you expect, really? I don't think anyone expected them to be, competing in the top 6 or in that top 2. Maybe some Burton fans did, but I don't think I did. Hence why I predicted them 12, right in the middle. And that's where they are. They've had a really good start and they've had a slight drop off recently. I say recently, they've had a sort of a slight drop off in the last sort of month or so. And what they need to do now really is try and look better when it comes to consistency. If they can add that consistency, I think they could really push for the playoffs. Like I said, they've had like I said on countless times when I talk about Burton, they've had a really good moment and they've had a really low moment. If they can add that consistency, when they can have a run of form where, they might not be winning every game like they were at the start, but can they get a few draws in there instead of defeats, as well as having some wins in there, I think they can really push on for top 6. But I think where I thought they'd be mid-table, around that area, is probably why I got this right. They need to score more goals. That's important. They do need to score more goals. Importantly, on the road, away from home, they haven't scored enough goals. If they can get that going, if they can add those chances created, I think they could be a really improved side come the second half of the season. But I'm happy to get one prediction right. At least I got one right. That's all that matters. Next up, we've got Bolton. I predicted them to come 11th. They're currently 16th. So they're a bit lower than I thought. And if their recent form wasn't so poor, and I'm talking about their quite recent form, they probably would be where I thought they would. And it sounds obvious, it sounds stupid, but recently we have seen a Bolton side crumble and deteriorate. At the start of the season, we saw a really, really good Bolton side. This season, they just haven't been. This part of the season, they haven't been good enough, and their recent form needs to be resolved quickly, and that'll be something that Ian Evatt will look at, and they need to bring in players in January. They need to look at players in January to add to what is already a good squad, no doubt, but long-term injuries to Sheehan, Savicic leaving the club to Stockport County, they're the sort of players that need to be looked at to be looking at replacing, and they need to bring some recruits in January to push back up that league. And I think if they do that, they could be talking about between maybe 6th and maybe 12th if they can really bring some players in. It's not been a bad season, of course. Newly promoted side in 16th, but they did bring some players in the summer. You hope they could really push on after sort of sorting things out, maybe off the pitch. But yeah, it could be better. But and that's the important thing to remember. It's not bad, but it could be better. January's a really significant month to try and sort those things out. Next, and we've got Lincoln, another one that I didn't get right at all. They currently find themselves in 20th, and I predicted them 10th. I predicted them to be 10 points away from 10 places away, from where they actually are, and that's a worry. It's gone horribly wrong this season, to be honest. It really, really has. This prediction's gone horribly wrong. Their season's gone horribly wrong. I expected much better from a side by Michael Appleton. Of course, he's a very, very good manager. I rate him so highly, and I expected that he could get things going with Lincoln. Now, of course, they lost a lot of players back to their parent clubs. They had a lot of loan players in when they had that fantastic season last year. Those players, of course, went back to their parent clubs. Did they replace them as best they could have done? I think at the moment we're probably going and probably swaying towards no. Hence, where they are. Maybe look back on the summer window. They might look back on with some regret. Could they have done a bit better with their recruitment? 10 points worse off compared to last season as well, which is not good. So I sort of was right accidentally. 10 places worse off than I predicted, and 10 points worse off than they were last season. They've also played 4 more games than that as well, which is not a good stat to have and not a good record to be looking at. All focus now really has to be on staying up. How will they stay up? Well, we've already spoke about players they need to bring in. If you haven't watched that video, one player every League One needs to sign in the summer. We spoke about adding goals to this side. Anthony Scully started off the season so well, but because the players around Anthony Scully haven't been that good, we have all seen a drop-off in him as well. Players coming in Lincoln, especially going forward in his attacking areas, might be able to sort that out because they are lacking goals. They're lacking a lot of aspects to a side. They need to be focusing on staying out of that relegation zone and not getting relegated now, but has to be where they are. Next up, I predicted Wycombe to come 9th, and I personally thought I was going to get this one okay. I thought there'd be a drop-off, really, from a side that got promoted, of course, 2 seasons ago and then got relegated. I thought there'd be a drop-off. I thought there'd be a bit of a hangover from a side that had been relegated. But the answer to that question has been no. Will there be a drop-off? No, there hasn't been a drop-off. They've been really, really good. They currently find themselves in 4th. Like I said, I predicted them to finish 9th. They've been absolutely brilliant, really, and they've been so good in continuing the way that they like to play, and they know how to play. Ainsworth has a style of play that he wants to see his Wycombe side play, and they're doing that, and that is why they're doing so well this season. They look well drilled as always, they look well organised as always, and that is why they're doing so well. They look like a side that really wants to get back into the Championship. That hangover is not a possibility, and they've allowed that not to be a possibility, and I think getting back into the Championship really is a possibility, and that's why it's really exciting for Wycombe. Like I said, you have to respect their ambition, they have to respect that team spirit and that desire to get back into the Championship. They did a fantastic job this season. They're 4th in the league. Fair play to Wycombe. Now, I was sort of lowering my expectations for my own side, Oxford. I thought they were going to finish in 8th. They're currently in 5th, and I've been so impressed with what I've seen by Oxford. Of course, we've had a few low moments, but they've, I guess, been washed away by some really, really positive moments this season for Oxford. We scored the most amount of goals alongside Manchester City in the calendar year of 2021. And when I look back on this year, and I look back on the start of this season, I've been so impressed. We're currently sat in 5th at this point in the season, and that, for me, is exactly where we want to be. In previous years, especially under Carl Robinson, we're playing catch-up at this point. We're playing a game of catch-up. We're not doing that this season, and that really, really excites me. Now, January, bringing in some new faces, already comes and has said that that's something they need to do, and I think we need to add some quality and depth in certain areas. A striker, for me, is an area we need to look at, a left-back, potentially. There are areas we need to look at in January, but normally we're using the January window to sort of bring in lots and lots of players to hopefully help with the catch-up we currently find themselves in. For example, last season, we brought in Elliot Lee, Brendan Barker, who were very, very helpful in getting us into sixth spot in the end. But of course, we weren't playing catch-up. We weren't sat in fifth at this point last season. And that's why I find myself really quite excited with the second half of the season. It's not a bad record, 100 goals in 2021. Of course, that's not all the first half of the season. We have been very, very good at home this season, though. We've been expressive. We've been free-flowing. We've been very, very possession-based, as always. And we've been scoring goals. And that is what is really, really exciting. A hopeful start of the season for Oxford. I say start, first half of the season. Hopefully that second half can be even better. But I'm impressed, and we're in fifth. Next, then we've got Portsmouth. I thought they'd be finishing seventh. They're actually currently in ninth. So again, not awful. Two places away from where I thought they'd be. Remember, these predictions are at the end of the season, so I didn't actually allow for a mid-season start of the season drop off. And if they weren't great at the start of the season, they could get into that position in that second half. But that's not really the case of Portsmouth. They haven't been awful. They didn't start great, to be honest. They started okay, and then they got quite bad quite early on, and then now look quite good again. So again, it's been a bit of a roller coaster of a season so far. Hovering just outside the playoffs, though, at the halfway point in the season, isn't the worst place for Portsmouth. I think they'll be pretty happy with that. I think they'll probably be quite content with it. It is going to be quite a transition season for Portsmouth under Danny Cowlin. I think we all expected that. A lot of players leaving and quite a few players coming in. And like I said, hovering just outside the playoffs with a good start and then quite a bad start to the first half of the season, second half of the first half, you know what I'm trying to say. And then quite a good part, quite recently. That is exactly where you think they would be. A side that have had up and down moments this year, I think is okay. They have keeled off after that sort of really good first few games, but now they look back on a roll again, and that's really, really important. There's moments where they're around 17th, 19th, and it looked like a real worry for Portsmouth, but they really are getting a run of games together now and looking really quite good. I think it's been quite an acceptable, a quite positive season so far, based on expectation. I've been quite impressed with Portsmouth. So yeah, I think they probably will be hovering outside the playoffs, maybe pushing their way into the playoffs with a good January window. Next, then we've got Wigan. I thought they'd come sixth, sneaking into the playoffs. They're actually currently in third, and they've had an absolutely brilliant start to the season. After the business in the summer, I think many expected a much improved campaign, and we've seen just that. January will be key to add numbers to the squad, but there's been no doubt they look like a really, really good side. Liam Richardson at the moment, as Wigan manager, has done an incredible job. He has been so important in making sure that this Wigan side continue and also add consistency in the way that they've been playing their very, very good football. Like I said, they have a very, very strong and very, very significant and high quality core to their squad, and that's what's been so important for them. Been so impressed by Wigan. Like I said, January, if they add those numbers, add that quality and depth, we could look at a really, really good side and an even better side in that second half of the season. But a really good campaign on the whole so far. Sat in third at the halfway point. It's exactly where they want to be. They're well organised, they look well drilled, they look well coached, as I've already mentioned. I like the look of Wigan. They're going to be a real side, I think, pushing for those automatic places come the end of the season. So I predicted Sunderland to come fifth. They're currently sat in second. And is this finally the year? It's looking good so far. Some real standout performers in this side. You look at Stewart, you're looking at Neil, you're looking at O'Neill, you're looking at Flanagan, you're looking at Flanagan, you're looking at Pritchard. Some very, very good players and some outstanding performers so far this season. They've been really, really good. They've really set themselves up for a real title push, I think, in the second half of the season. And sometimes, in recent years, Sunderland have been struggling to sort of get over the line. This season, Sunderland look like they could do that. Keep up that good form, keep up that intensity, keep up that desire and that work rate that they're playing at the moment and that high level they're playing at the moment. I think this could be a season to remember for Sunderland, and finally a good season to remember at the moment, because we talk about Sunderland just not being able to get off that final hurdle, not getting over that final hurdle. This could finally be the year. They continue like they are at the moment in fantastic form. This could be finally the year for Sunderland. I predict them to finish in the playoffs. They really could get into that top two. Next, then we've got Charlton. I thought they finished fourth, and they're not fourth. They're 13th. So it's a bit disappointing, really. A little bit disappointing. It's similar to a side that we're going to come back to, not come back to, we need to still get to, actually. And their expectation was high at the start of the season, and it's been a bit of a difficult one on and off the pitch. Adkins, of course, left. Johnny Jackson's now been brought in as permanent manager after a really good caretaker spell. And I'm trying. I don't want to give away the team. I mean, you already will work it out. It's a team, one of the teams I haven't mentioned yet, that had real high aspirations. Were very, very, I guess, ruthless in the market in terms of recruiting players. Sort of gave themselves a really, really high expectation, and haven't really lived up to it yet. Now, there has been a slight improvement. Adkins was sacked, JJ came in, and there has been an improvement. And if they continue that improvement, and he's definitely said, and he said himself, Jackson, let's make sure and let's try our best to make this season one to remember. They recently lost to Wigan, which will be a little bit disappointing at home. But promotion was the ambition at the start of the season, and they haven't had that first half to sort of get themselves in a place to do so. And there was a great deal of joy in the summer in terms of bringing players in. They haven't really sprinkled themselves in joy as of yet. A big second half of the season needed. 14 points from the playoffs. Can they do it? I don't know. A big, big January to bring some players in, and a big second half of the season for Charlton Athletic. Next down, Rotherham, I thought they would come third. They're currently top of the league. And on the whole, a superb season, really. A few questionable results here and there. Like I said, that 1-0 defeat to Accrington quite recently. But generally, a very, very good campaign so far. Not many Rotherham fans, I don't think, can be too kind of really argue with it so far. We look at a really, really good side this season, who I think will be looking at a real serious title charge, playing great football. Smith this season, Michael Smith's got 11 goals this season. They're scoring goals. Ladapo's on great form. I think it could be a really, really memorable season for the Millers. I think they're looking really, really good. And like I said, they're top of the league at the halfway point of the season. Why can't they continue being top of the league and try and hopefully not run away with it from an Oxford perspective, but sort of continue and staying in that sort of form and staying in that fantastic place they are, at the top of the tree, really. So they're going to be really, really happy with it. It's been a superb season. They've done better than I thought, 2 places harder than I thought, so fair play to Rotherham. So this was a prediction, the next one, that again I didn't get quite right, and this is what I was trying to talk to you about when I was talking about Charlton. Quite similar to Charlton, there was a lot of expectation at Ipswich after the signings they made in the summer and the money they spent in the summer. It hasn't gone to plan. Cook's been sacked, of course, McKenna's come in. And like I said, when you bring those players in, you bring the amount of players in, you bring the amount of money that's spent through the door, there is a level of expectation that you maybe don't want, but is just naturally there because, like I said, the recruitment was very, very intense. There was a lot of players joining. It was, like I said, a transition period for the football club in January. A lot of players, in the summer, a lot of players leaving, and now a lot of players through the door in the summer. Gelling was also going to be a bit of an issue. It could have gone one of two ways. I thought it'd go the positive way, finishing second and going up because they got some fantastic players. It hasn't gone that way, and they currently find themselves in 11th. Now, they could get themselves in that top 6. They're not that far away. They're 10 points away, and they could go for a promotion push in the second half of the season. And under Kieran McKenna, I can see them doing that. They beat Wycombe in McKenna's first game, and he looks to be a coach, a young, exciting coach that wants to make sure this season isn't dead and buried for Ipswich. And I for his sake, I hope that is the case. At the moment, it's not been a season to remember, but it really could be with the right second half of the season. You look at the business they've made. They set themselves that expectation. They haven't lived up to it as of yet. But yeah, 11th is where they are. I predict them second. Not a great prediction for me. And finally then, and not a great prediction, Sheffield Wednesday. Look, it was always going to be a difficult season for Sheffield Wednesday, getting relegated. A lot of things off the field that was an issue, and that was a big reason why they got relegated. I predicted them first. They're currently sat in 8th, which isn't bad. It's not awful. They're still in a shout and in contention for promotion. I don't think they're going to be looking at a title like I thought they would be. And there's a lot of pressure that comes with getting relegated from the Championship. That expectation is to get promoted straight back up into the Championship. And Darren Moore as well, he's under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on Darren Moore, and I think there's some Sheffield Wednesday fans that are slowly turning on him, and he needs to translate that quickly, losing to Sunderland, who are a team they're meant to be competing with for this promotion. Losing to them 5-0 was horrific, and that is an awful, awful result for them. But they had an unbeaten run of 12 games, which looked like a positive sign, and then you get that 5-0 thrashing to Sunderland. there's something missing at Sheffield Wednesday, and if it's a player or it's a few players, then January is the time to resolve that. But if it's a manager situation, then Darren Moore's going to be under some serious pressure. And there is, at the moment, a sense at Sheffield Wednesday of a bit, I think, of not reaching expectations yet, and they're not really aiming at the moment now for a title, but they're aiming for top 6, and that's where they want to be. For me, there has been underachievement at Sheffield Wednesday, maybe a slight underachievement, but I still think, looking at the league position, it's not quite good enough, and it's not good enough to where, I'm saying that because my prediction was so poor, but also from a Sheffield perspective, it's not where they want to be. So there we go then. That is a bit of a mid-season review on every single club, and also reacting to my predictions I did at the start of the season. If you enjoyed it and if you want to see more of this sort of content, please let me know in the comments down below. Remember, leave a like and subscribe. We're on the road to 600 now and 50 subscribers. Can we get there really, really quickly? It would mean the absolute world. Like I said, if you enjoyed the content, you want to see more of this, you've got some exciting ideas you want to see in the future as well, let me know in the comments down below. But until next time, I've been Jack. This has been the Unfan Podcast. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you all very, very soon. See you in a bit.